Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Now that my obligatory informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. One of my subscribers has awared me that a channel run by Victor Costa, which is, in the same ballpark of outreach that I'm in, uh, made a video that he thought I might enjoy and that I should cover. And so I'm going to go ahead and discuss this video just in the context of this video because I know who Victor Costa is. Like, I've heard the name, I've seen pictures, I've seen stuff around out there. I'm not intimately familiar with his work. I'm going to assume he does something related to bodybuilding or physique competition in some way because, again, in this video, he used the word conditioning. He used it in the correct context, actually, oftentimes too, is as we actually use it in sports. But he also used it while talking about body fat levels for bodybuilders and things. So I'm going to assume he's kind of in the bodybuilding world because no one with an athletic background would ever use the latter. They would never discuss conditioning as body fat percentage. That's a complete bodybuilder thing. So I do know that he's a guy in my age bracket. I know he's a guy who stays very lean, claims natural, very well could be natural. I'll buy that. And has well-developed biceps. That's what I think he's known for, at least just for the casual observer looking from the outside who doesn't really follow his work. So he made this video, and I think he had some great points. And it's some stuff that I do try to tell people to some extent, and I think he worded it in his own way. And what Victor basically talked about is that when we are at our peak condition, that is usually where we're vulnerable, we're more prone to injuries, that's where we fall, and that trying to maintain any sort of peak year-round, whether it's trying to be at a peak leanness in terms of body fat. And that's one of my big issues with a lot of these physique-oriented guys who are trying to tell people to get ripped and everything else. I don't see the point of getting down to a body fat that you can't stay at. To me, it's completely pointless, right? I don't understand it outside of a competitive environment. Okay, if you're going to go do some sort of physique competition, I totally get it. I get it. But people who do quick cuts and then rip down really lean and then don't stay there for 3 years straight, I don't understand the point of it. That seems, to me, that's completely absurd and nothing but harmful because, let's be frank, he's right. People who get down ultra lean, it's bad for you. We have studies showing it's bad for you, studies on natural competitive bodybuilders. Like, if you look at the data, it's horrific for your body. Like, to get down to 6% body fat is absolute abuse of your body. And to try to stay there, will absolutely hurt you. And the guys who are pulling it off successfully are using a boatload of drugs to pull it off. It's not something that you're going to be able to do drug-free. And even with drugs, it's going to be very, very difficult to maintain. And it's going to hurt you anyway. So there's no point in doing it. And I think that's kind of the point that he made was he talked about trying to stay at base camps. He discussed it as climbing the summit of Mount Everest, I believe. That when people get to the top, that's when they're more likely to fall. That's when they're more likely to get hurt, or they're more likely to die up there. People need to understand all the corpses at the top of Mount Everest were at one time highly motivated, highly driven people. So what he talked about is spending a certain time at base camps and having a base to build off of and changing what he called your base camp and changing capacities and everything else. And that's a lot of what I try to tell people. It's very, very difficult to do very high specificity training and stay peaked at any given time. For example, let's talk about what I do, powerlifting, strength sports. You're going to find that very few competitive lifters successfully, and a lot of them do, and I don't want people to think that this doesn't work because you guys have even seen me do things like Bulgarian training. Ultra high specificity peaking training as a long-term training style can be extremely difficult. It can be physically taxing. It can be psychologically demanding. In fact, I'll go out on a limb and say, as having done that style of training myself for 7 months straight on camera, and I've done it for just a few months at a time before, but I did it 7 months straight last year. The psychological and physical demands of it really, really mount up. And when you start doing things like, oh, I'm going to get leaner and cut body fat while doing it, yeah. You guys saw that I struggled with that. That was hard. I still lost the body fat. I lost the weight. But maintaining that sort of training style, which is, again, for my sport, is almost a peaking training style that some lifters do year-round, it's demanding. It's difficult. you're going to find most successful, even elite athletes, say in my sport, spend a lot more time doing conditioning training. They're highly conditioned. They spend a lot of time getting in shape. They spend a lot of time getting in shape, and what we call in shape, meaning conditioning work, GPP, very, very high training volumes, very large amounts of assistance movements that will carry over to when they want to peak for an actual competition. But we don't stay necessarily at our peak year round. Now, I do a concurrent style training right now that can do a similar thing, but you guys get the idea. We're not necessarily peaked all the time, and that's true of any competitive endeavor. When you're at your peak and doing your absolute best and pushing your limits, you're more likely to get sick, you're more likely to get hurt, you're more likely to get knocked out of the game. So it's better to reel it in and establish baselines to build off of. And that's a great point that he made. And I think it's a good analogy when you talk about, again, climbing a mountain. And if you stay at a certain lower base camp down and you build off of there over time, eventually your new baseline will become the next camp up on the summit, right? Because you'll be able to build to it, but you'll be able to do so in a safer manner, and you'll be able to establish baseline skills, baseline capacities, baseline capabilities by building off of that. And that's true of whether you're talking about fat loss, strength gaining, muscle gains, anything like that. And that's one of the things that people have to grasp. And internet audiences don't always grasp that. That's why you guys are oftentimes here learning. A lot of the people are novices. And I mean, the perfect example is exactly what I've been doing, a changing baseline. For me, a lot of people are like, why did you end your cut, Jason? You were doing so well. You lost 40 pounds. Why are you staying at the same body weight for an extremely long period of time intentionally? Because I have to change my body's baseline. And here's what I will say. Anyone out there who said to me, oh, you should just continue all the way down to whatever body fat, having already lost 40 pounds of body weight, you do not need to be a coach. I'm going to tell those people right now, if you plan on becoming a fitness professional, whether it's a trainer, a coach, anything else, you're not going to be successful at it. You're going to lose a lot of clients because your people are going to fail. Because you really don't understand that. You're taking the drug bodybuilder mindset with that. And what happens to anybody who starts at a very high body fat and then diets all the way down to ultra rip? They get fat again. They get fat again. And again, when you have someone like me who's very performance oriented, strength oriented, the additional strength loss of that can be psychologically taxing and counterproductive to my actual endeavors, to my goals. So you take someone like me, I'm doing exactly what he's talking about. So I understand what he's saying. Like in my case, I dropped from 255 down into the two teens. And my goal is for now to just stay under 220. And I'm going to stay there a long time until I get my squat back to 500, my deadlift back to 600, all of those things. And then when I've continued and I feel like my body is happy and adjusted to that body weight to where it is capable of making progress again from that base camp, is again the way Victor would put it, and it becomes my new normal. In other words, my body accepts 218 or 219 as my new 245, and it's comfortable there, and it's happy to put on muscle there, and it's happy to make gains in strength from there. Then we repeat the process sequentially over time, because everything in fitness and training and sports, it is about the journey. It is a long-term investment. And anytime you go for quick fixes, and that's exactly what he's talking about, people thinking that they're going to get everything that they want tomorrow, well, usually the only way you pull that off is to push beyond your limits and get hurt and get sick and get burned out, or to use enormous amounts of drugs, which can cause you to get hurt, get sick, get burned out. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable as a lifestyle. And I can appreciate that I have another more experienced person like me talking to a lot of you younger guys about this and explaining this, that if you really want this to last, if you want lasting results, you need to look at it this way. You sometimes need to reel things in and establish baselines at different points from a position that you can continue to build off of, and to make your body just accept eventually things as a new baseline. And he said exactly the perfect case with him. It took him a while to get down to certain body fats and to just stay there for a long period of time and not necessarily try to get leaner. And at a certain point, your body starts to accept a certain level of body fat. as a baseline normal. It changes your set points. And once it does that, once your body becomes comfortable and established long-term at any given position, it gives you a baseline to build off of. It gives you a baseline to build off of and to improve off of in a more consistent and lasting manner that is less likely to get you hurt or to make you fall from your peak. So I think he did a good job of explaining that. And what I did there is I took what he said and I carried it over to what I do is the same philosophy. And it's because that same concept that he broke down can be applied to any of our physical endeavors, right? It can be applied to anything that you guys are out there doing. It doesn't matter whether it's body composition and aesthetics related, or a strength sport, such as what I'm doing, where we have to even make weight classes and things, or whether it's running, or CrossFit, or football, or anything else. The concept is the same. It can be applied to any of these endeavors, and I think it's a good way to look at things, and I think he presented it really well. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.